Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
I've been going out with a girl, her name is Julie, but last night she said to me when we were watching telly.
It is, I think, fair to say that the explanation as to why footballers around the world, but for the purposes of our conversation today, England footballers, take the knee before matches, it has been explained in a way that pretty much everybody except a Conservative MP called Lee Anderson can understand. Why then would you still do it? We can all now wave goodbye to the entertaining notion that it was an expression of support for Marxist ideology, but nobody with an honest bone in their body can still believe that, not least after Gareth Southgate explained in some detail for the sort of hard of thinking at the back of the room why they were doing it. Gary Lineker, as is often the case with matters where football and decency meet, has said the definitive account: if you boo England players for taking the knee, you are part of the reason why players are taking the knee. But I perhaps rather find a more optimistic explanation for why it is still going on. 22 minutes after 10 is the time. Phone lines are open. Francis is in Pangbourne. Francis, what would you like to say?
Hi, James. Thanks for having me on. I think it's a very unfortunate situation, and it doesn't look good for the country, frankly, all the booing that's taking place. But I have a feeling that the reason why it's continuing is because the kneeling before games, I think, restarted as soon as football restarted back in August or July or whatever it was. And I think a lot of people think, when does this stop? Not that they necessarily think that racism is not a problem, but would this be an indefinite thing? I mean, I think that's the lack of clarity on that, I think, is what's getting a lot of people so angry.
Well, don't talk to me about a lot of people. Just talk to me about yourself.
Well, that's exactly what I believe.
So you think we've had enough of it now? Well,
that's not the point, really. The point is that...
Sorry.
I think there are a lot of people who would say...
But no, again, you're doing it, sorry to badger you, but I don't want to hear from a lot of people. It's a one-on-one conversation. You feel that it should stop now because it's gone on for long enough.
I think that it has to stop at some stage.
Yes.
Maybe not now, but I have a feeling that...
Would you boo if you were there?
No, of course I wouldn't.
Well, why did you say it like that? Why did you say, of course I wouldn't?
Well, because that's what I feel.
But you share the views of the people that are booing. You're explaining them to me.
No, I didn't. I said that I think at some stage it should stop.
Yes.
And I think that the problem is...
And the people who are booing are booing because, like you, they believe that at some stage it should stop.
Yes, but I said I wouldn't boo, so there's obviously a complete distinction there.
What's the difference between you and them?
I wouldn't boo, they are booing.
Yes, I know. What's the difference between you and them?
The difference between me and them is that, well, in terms of the booing, it's because I wouldn't boo, they would boo. I can't, again, you say you don't want me to talk about lots of people.
No, I don't. I mean, I'm not being unfair. There's no point you telling me what other people think when this whole phone-in is built upon the idea of, if I walk into a room and you're kneeling, I can't tell you why you're kneeling. I can only ask you why you're kneeling. And the footballers say we're kneeling to express our opposition to racism, our solidarity with the idea, with the statement that Black Lives Matter, to which my response is, well, flipping, you carry on, lads, for as long as you want, for as long as it takes, for as long as it needs. And your response is, yeah, I'm just going to check the watch and see whether it's time to withdraw support for this.
If I could ask you a question, if they were still taking the knee before football matches in 3 years' time,
yes,
would you think that would be okay?
No, it would never enter my mind that there was a time limit on the fight against racism.
No, but if I had to ask...
sorry, I've done you a disservice there. If the battle had been won.
So what would the battle have been won mean?
Well, then you'd have to ask them, wouldn't you?
Well, I'm asking you, though.
Okay, well, it would involve a confidence that institutional racism or persistent discrimination or double standards no longer applied across huge swathes of the country. It would also be nice to stop seeing black people getting killed by white police officers.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean,
well, what would it be for you? When would you think it was time up?
Well, I just think it's a question of proportionality. I think that we've now had the kneeling for a year, and I don't understand why you were cross when I said you think it's gone on for long enough. No, I think the main reason I called in was to say I think that a lot of people have a feeling that this is never going to end, and I think that is what is causing.
Well, how do you think being a victim of racism feels?
No, I'm not denying that. That's no problem.
No, but just in the context of being slightly annoyed that this is never going to end. You're comparing people watching kneeling to people enduring racism. I mean, it's never going to end. Pick a side. Who do you feel sorriest for? The people who have to keep watching these flipping footballers kneeling, or the people who have to keep living with institutional racism?
It's a question that there are many ills in society.
Yes.
And
we've drawn enough attention to this one now. Let's move on to another one. Which one would you move on to first?
Well, should we say sexism? I mean, this is not a question of who is the most oppressed.
Well, it kind of is, because you're saying how long is it going to go on for? To which the answer would be when there is presumably either meaningful progress or, may the day dawn soon, no oppression at all. And I stress again, for anybody else waiting to talk, don't tell me what you think other people think. You know, tell me. Well, no, you can't tell me what you think other people think, but I'm more interested in what you think. And the question where you can tell me what other people think is, now that the players have explained, now that it has been explained, crystal clear why they are doing it, how come anyone could still boo? First answer, because it's gone on for long enough. Tom is in Hampstead. Tom, what would you like to say?
Good morning. I was actually at the Riverside yesterday, and I booed the knee.
Okay. Why do you think the players are doing it?
I know the reasons that they've said that they're doing it.
So you booed that then?
No.
So you booed the reasons that they haven't said?
My undertone is that when I hear the word Black Lives Matter, I think of burning buildings in America, attacking the police and violent protests.
Yes.
So I'm not...
Have you tried not to?
Sorry?
Have you tried not to think that? Have you tried to think about the words and what they actually mean?
One of my aunties actually was killed during a Black Lives Matter protest last year.
And that's appalling, but have you tried thinking about what the words actually mean?
I understand what they mean, and I agree with what
do they mean?
And well, they're saying that Black Lives Matter also matter. Black lives also matter. I understand that.
So why are you booing it?
Because of what I've just said about what I think about when I think of those words. Now,
if I walk into a room and you're kneeling, I don't get to tell you why you're kneeling or what you're showing support for. I get only to ask you. So we've asked the footballers why they're doing it, and they've told us, Tom.
Which I respect. And
well, you don't respect. The polar opposite of respecting it, mate, is booing it. I'm afraid it couldn't be a bigger U-turn or a more violent opposition to respect than the idea of booing something. So you don't respect it. You completely and categorically disrespect it. So let's just make sure we're using words accurately.
Absolutely. But it's, I think if you make a bold statement rather than just taking the knee every week, actually, I think I would respect it more. But it's just a complete, politically correct statement done.
But again, you're telling them why they're doing it, and they're giving you a very different answer to that question. So what do you think qualifies you to say, I know that's why you say you're doing it, but I know better?
Well, again, that's your opinion. For me...
No, you boo them. They've told you why they're doing it, and you're booing them for completely different reasons.
But then that's my opinion.
Your opinion is that you know better than them as to why they're kneeling. You claiming it was my opinion a minute ago.
I've read what they've said about why they're kneeling. I've been going to England games for 10 years, home and away. I'm going next week to Croatia at home. I'll be at all the Euro games, and I'm also going to Qatar next summer. What
do you think? What impact do you think it has on the players when they get booed by their own fans before the game starts? Do you think it might G them up a bit?
Honestly, I think that part's bad, and I'm one of the people that do it. I think it's bad because, England are going into a major tournament, and we're basically, the biggest story at the moment is the fact that there's the divide between the fans and the players.
Well, some fans, mate. I think you got drowned out by the majority. Just a small proportion of fans who many people think are racist, but I presume you reject that description.
I'm absolutely outright not racist, but,
But you boo the Black Lives Matter kneeling.
I blew the black. Yeah.
But you're definitely not racist.
Yeah. Sorry?
What do you think the word support means?
Support what? In what context?
Any context you want.
Getting behind, isn't it? Encouraging.
Yeah. So you're there to actually make them play worse, are you?
Well, no. I spent probably our best part of 50,000, 60,000 over the last 10 years following in home. I was in Russia 2 years ago.
Yes, but we're talking about yesterday. I mean, by booing the players, do you think you are more likely to make them perform better or worse?
I think it's a very touchy subject. That's not got.
It's really not.
You know,
you can ask me the same question if you want. If you boo me, or put yourself in that situation. What do you do for a living, Tom?
What's that? Sorry.
What do you do for a living?
I work in the city.
Okay, so if I came into your office and started booing you and disrespecting you, and you'd say to me, "Why are you doing that? I'm just trying to do my job." And I said to you, "Hang on a minute, Tom. I know what you're really up to. You're not doing that." And do you think you would perform better or worse at work?
Hang on, I'm not disrespecting or.
Yes, you are. You're booing them. We've already established that. So. Would you be more likely to make them play better or worse by booing them? It's not a trick question.
I'm not. You know, when the players come on the pitch, they get a clap, we sing their anthem, and stuff like that.
And then you boo them. So do you think booing them will make them play better or worse?
But it's not about the football why I'm booing them.
I don't care. Do you think it will make them play better or worse?
I mean, I guess worse. But that's
and here you are. Are you going to boo them at the Croatia game?
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. You're a massive supporter, you are, aren't you? How big's your flag?
Sorry?
How big's your flag?
I've got a British flag just to, you know...
Yeah, I know.
Really,
I know you have. You don't need to tell me that. I'm just wondering how big it is.
I can't remember, sorry.
All right, and how hard do you wave it when you're booing the England players?
I don't wave a flag.
Oh, call yourself a football fan?
I know. Unbelievable, isn't
Mate,
it?
do me a favour. Seriously, keep your thoughts. That's fine. If you want to believe that you know better as to why these human beings who've told you why they're doing something are really doing it, you've got a better insight. Just don't boo them because we want to win, right? And you've just said yourself that by booing them, you make them play worse. Can't you just keep quiet for a month?
Well, the problem is, look at Millwall. Honestly,
no, I don't want to look at Millwall. I don't support Millwall. I want England to win. You don't want them to win. Why are you going to the games? Why are you using up a seat that a proper fan could have?
Well, you know, it's based on loyalty, and I was imagining...
Loyalty to the people that you boo?
No, yeah. I mean,
OK, here ends today's meeting of the Brains Trust. It's coming up to 11 o'clock, and there it is, the voice of the patriot. I don't really need, perhaps this is grossly unfair, to ask him how he feels about refugees, foreign aid, Prince Harry, Brexit, and quite possibly Ollie Robinson.
I just want to show our viewers the front page of the Daily Mail and get you to respond. Andrea, the headline says, outrage as Oxford students vote to axe Queen after they claim portrait represents colonial history. This is reporting that students at Magdalen College in Oxford have voted to remove a portrait of the Queen from their common room. The president of Magdalen College said this was a decision for the students, not the college, but she said this was about the students exercising their free speech. Now, Gavin Williamson, the Education Secretary, has intervened, and this is his tweet. Oxford University students removing a picture of the Queen is simply absurd. She is the head of state and a symbol of what is best about the UK during her long reign. She has worked tirelessly to promote British values of tolerance, inclusivity and respect around the world.
Joe has called from San Diego's. Hello, Joe.
Hi, Sheila. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. First-time caller.
That's all right. Take your time.
Yeah, I do give two hoots, to be fair. I think it's just totally disrespectful. Going back to World War II, quite a long time ago, thousands of people died for Queen and country. They fought for Queen and country to give people today their sort of freedom. And to sort of think that she should be taken down from the wall, I just find she's not some religious figure or anything like that. It's just out of respect for what happened for obviously people that died as a sacrifice for people.
That's interesting. So when you and again, this is something that Gareth Southgate talks about in his letter, that Queen and country. His grandfather fought for Queen and country. He plays for Queen and country, and he feels that passion and that patriotism, and that's all to the good. But it's interesting because when I look at that portrait, I see the Queen, and clearly I know that what she represents to me, but to other people, this group of students has decided that to other people. Not she privately, the woman, but the crown that she wears, the role that she inhabits.
Yeah.
That also represents things that could alienate some of the students who use those rooms. And that for that decision, this is why I think it's just a fairly humdrum decision that a group of people on their own have the right to make. But I don't think it has massive significance. But for you, it does have significance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an ex-military member myself, and I did serve Her Majesty. And it's nothing to do with sort of colonialism. It's to do with our freedom, and these students that are in the common room, they're here because of sort of people serving their country years ago, and I don't know whether they think of that. I don't know whether it's just to do with the colonialism or whether it's...
But it is possible to be frank about both aspects, isn't it? You know, you could potentially sit down with them and say, look, here's how seeing you do that is disrespectful. In my mind, it's disrespectful. Here's why. They might counter. I can't speak for them, but based on what they've said about their decision, they might come back to you, Joe, and say, well, look, you know, the British crown, the British monarchy, it also represents on the global stage suffering caused, not just suffering stopped. You know?
But how far do we go back in history to sort of, as I say, well, going back to World War II, it's very recent. These people still survive that have fought in those times. And
look at Windrush, Joe. Look at Windrush. There were people who'd been born and raised here, made to leave here because they couldn't prove their Britishness.
Yes, I mean, that was a total shamble, absolutely.
Yeah, but it didn't come out of nowhere. It didn't come out of nowhere, that the capacity to do it to them and not to me, a white woman, even though my family don't come from England or any other part of the British Isles. Well, they do come from part of the British Isles because it's Ireland, but of the UK. But they couldn't do it to me, but they could do it to those people because of colonial history.
Right, okay, yes, fair enough. But as I say, I don't think, was it Will Hutton earlier saying about it being sinister and Orwellian? I find that a bit strange, really, to sort of speak on those terms, really. And to be fair, I think...
So you welcome Gavin Williamson's intervention?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, interesting.
I think someone should, in power, should sort of stand up to sort of say what they think for a change. It's quite a sort of bit of a breath of fresh air to sort of them to say, oh, okay, we'll pass that one by. But, if he's got feelings, why can't he say things?
All right, okay, Joe, thank you. Dwayne has called from Isha. Hello, Dwayne.
Hello, Sheila.
You do have a picture of the Queen in your house.
I'm a patriot more than a royalist, but I do have not a picture on the wall, but I have on my coffee table. I have the Jubilee album-sized book, 12-inch by 12-inch, all the fantastic pictures of history and everything. And I just think this is going far too far. I'd like to challenge anyone under 25, their knowledge of history. You can't eradicate history and you can't erase history. You need to educate from history. And, in the US, every morning, every school child, every college kid gets up and sings the national anthem. Maybe we should do that here and it teach people a bit more respect.
Oh, Dwayne.
Well, the Americans do it.
Oh, the Americans do all sorts of things. Dwayne.
And nobody laughs at it, do they?
I'm actually not laughing. I'm actually not laughing about it. I am saying to you, and I think the Queen herself is a brilliant exponent of this. Quiet, dignified, quiet love of country is what oozes from that woman and from the way she's done her job. But that's how we do patriotism in this country. We don't make kids stand up and sing to the Queen every morning or sing to their country every morning.
We don't, because we're a democracy and we allow these things to just, but why people here in this country don't respect this country, they might as well leave. I'm really angry about that guy from Punjab because he's claiming that it doesn't bother him and going on for 15 minutes about how much it bothers him is, he might as well go back.
Well, he has. I think he has. Really... Well, hang on. He has justified anger and distress about what happened at Amritsar, without a doubt.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that was not Britain's finest hour.
And it's apologised for.
Yeah, well,
it's dealt with.
Yes,
it's
all right.
History.
But
we can't say it didn't happen.
All the students in that common room are saying is, we want our environment not to have a portrait of the monarch in it. That's the environment we want to live in. It's not a rejection per se of the Queen. It's an understanding of the feeling in that environment. It's the difference between your kid just going to school to learn and your kid going to school to be made to sing the national anthem. It's about the atmosphere that people radicalised where.
No, I'm saying you're saying about going to school to learn to be educated, or going to school to radicalise.
Well, I don't think singing the national anthem would radicalise kids. I just don't think it's a necessary way to
move to another wall in the hallway. I don't think it should be taken down.
Well, it's not your hallway and it's not your wall. So enjoy your book about the Jubilee. And I'm sure it's very interesting, your book about the Jubilee, and there'll be another one next year, no doubt. Thank you very much indeed. That's Dwayne in Esher.
Philip's in Liverpool. Back to the lockdown, Philip. What's going on?
Hi, mate. Yeah, thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think it's about time we left people to make their own decisions for their own health and their own safety.
Even people who haven't got, even people that you wouldn't trust to lace their own shoes.
Exactly. Well,
because you can catch it. Because you can catch it.
Living in a free country,
you can catch it off them. You realise that?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, but you can obviously sort of limit your situation, your exposure. So if you decided that you wanted to remain locked down, then keep yourself locked down. You don't have to go to a nightclub if it opens. You wouldn't have to go to a wedding with 100 guests if you thought it was not safe for you to go. So,
but what are you basing your judgments on? I mean, if the scientists say don't do it, and then you say no, I'm going to anyway, what is it you're drawing on to confidently reject the advice of the scientists?
Well, I've had a vaccination, so I'm sort of obviously going by the confidence that the vaccine works from what the scientists have told me. But it's by the same argument of
so that would be a
smoking,
vaccine passport argument, wouldn't it? Which is slightly different. If you've got double dose vaccine already and you've had the 10 days or whatever it is for it to kick in, then you should have like a loyalty card, a free pass to get in and to do things that people who haven't been vaccinated can't do. I'd agree with you on that, but that would involve government implementation. That would be just a different policy.
I mean, I don't think people should have a passport, no. But
well, how do I know you've had a vaccine then?
Well, you don't. That's the point of living in a free country, don't you? You don't know what people have around you.
A free country doesn't mean you're free to lie and risk people's lives.
I'm not saying you lie to people.
Well, then how do I know you've had the vaccine then?
Well, you don't, do you?
Well, how do I know you're not lying?
You don't either.
Right.
But again,
so you're in favour of people being free to lie about having the vaccine and then march around mixing with people who are telling the truth?
I didn't suggest people were free to lie. I'm suggesting
I said you'd be lying, and you said that's what happens in a free country.
No, I wouldn't. I think you're misinterpreting what I'm trying to say. But
okay, I think you just invented. I think you just invented the word misinterpretate. So it's all swings and roundabouts. So just talk me through again how we stop the people lying about it poisoning or infecting the people who are telling the truth.
I'm not suggesting people. What I'm suggesting is if you feel like it's dangerous for you to venture outside
I'm not talking about feelings. I'm talking about the facts of vaccination. So you've been vaccinated. You're comfortable. You're confident going out. There's someone. You can't justify your own risk if other people are lying and they're not carrying a card that proves they're vaccinated.
Figures of how many people are vaccinated. So if you're in a room with 10 people, you know that the odds are that 8 of them are vaccinated.
No,
and
you
2
don't.
Of them aren't.
No,
you do because the vaccinations program says that 80% of adults are vaccinated.
Well, first of all, it doesn't.
So you can weigh up your own risks by the figures that the government are giving you and the facts of how many people are vaccinated and how many aren't.
Right.
So if you're in a room with 10 people,
the figure's actually 60%, mate.
Who aren't?
The figures
are fully vaccinated, if not of the first dose, including first doses, then you're close to the 80. But again, obviously, even if that's the fact, obviously you've got the 60% fully vaccinated, you know that if you're in a room with 10 people, likely 4 of them aren't vaccinated.
But you don't know that at all.
Well, it
depends on your age. It depends on the age group. If you're in a room with 10 people in their 20s, what's the likelihood that they're all vaccinated, champ?
In their 20s, well, if they're 20 to 24, then quite low, 25 plus.
Well, and how do you establish how old they are?
You can ask for identification.
But you're against that?
No, I'm asking for identification. Everyone holds identification. I was against the vaccine passport.
Well, what's the difference?
Well, a vaccine passport indicates your medical stature, an ID indicates your age.
Precisely. What's the difference? Well, why wouldn't you want to be able to prove your age and prove that you've been vaccinated? What's the fundamental philosophical difference for you there?
I think one's more personal and private than the other.
What, your age?
No, your age it's just your age, isn't it? But some people hold dear to them. Some people think that they're...
Well, exactly. Some people think their age is private. Joan Collins hasn't revealed hers for about 30 years.
Again, the problems of living in a free country, isn't it?
But you keep talking about a free country, but you seem to be defending people's freedom to lie.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, no, that's fine. I mean, I don't want to live in a country where there are no consequences for lying. I don't think that is what freedom is. I want to be free to live in a country where I know whether or not the person sitting next to me has been vaccinated. You don't care. You're going to, chop their leg off and count the rings, calculate their age, and then decide statistically that there's quite a good chance they have been vaccinated, so you'll happily lick their face.
Yeah, well,
No, fair. Good luck to you, mate. Have a great weekend.
Jonathan has called from Bishop Stortford. Hi, Jonathan.
Oh, yes, good afternoon, Sheila. Sheila, what this country does more than its share of helping other countries in general, always. We are always the first hit for anything, any war, anything that goes wrong in the country. The UK is always implicated to help most and first. We are in danger of having more people than we need here. And we won't need to help other countries because do you know what? If we keep having migration and immigration the way we are at the moment, with thousands coming in a week, we won't need to help any other country because they'll all be living here.
Jonathan, how often do you listen to programmes like mine?
Not so much now, no. But,
well, I think maybe you should. I'll tell you why. Because at the moment, we don't have enough people to do the jobs we need done in this country.
Yes, but also you've also got to run into that, Sheila. I appreciate that in farming sector, yes, there is a shortfall
and care
because
and healthcare
I understand
and
that.
IT.
But you try and talk about Sheila, but you talk about other places in the country, places like Tower Hamlets. They are falling over with people. There's more foreign people in there than there is British Indigenous people now.
But Jonathan, so what?
Yeah, but where are we going with this? We're an island. I'm sorry to say, but we are an island.
But how old are you, Jonathan? How old are you? I'll tell you how old I am. I'm 55. How old are you?
I'm around that sort of age.
OK. In 20 years' time, it's entirely possible that you and I, and I hope we don't, but it's entirely possible if we're still around that we'll need some kind of care and support in our life, whether that's somebody coming to help us cook or somebody coming to help us get washed in the morning or whatever. If there aren't enough people to do that, we're scuppered, aren't we?
Yes, but what we don't need, Sheila, with all due respect, what you're ignoring is the fact that you're talking about immigration.
I'm talking about the alternative.
Economic migrants that are
Jonathan,
coming to
the alternative to immigration in filling the vacancies in health, in care, in hospitality, in IT, in teaching, in farming. You mentioned the alternative to immigration is the government telling women to have more children. Is that what you want to hear?
I don't. Our birth rate ought to go down because we're in danger of being flooded.
Flooded
People's
by
lives
what?
are being
Flooded by
blighted,
what?
Chief.
Babies. Oh, God forbid. Jonathan, thank you. Good Lord.
Mike's in Bridgend. Mike, what's going on?
The trouble with it all is, and I'll lay on my cards, I am a Brexiteer, but with regards to
we don't really use that word on this programme because it makes you sound noble and brave rather than deluded and foolish.
Well, you can call me what you like, but I'm calling with regards to the virus. I think he just wanted to look pretty in India with the sun in his hair. That's basically what he wanted to do. He wanted to take a trip to the old former colony.
Well, he can do that in
and
Cornwall.
Look good.
he wanted to sign a trade deal. Question, why was it so desperate to sign a trade deal, Mike?
Ultimately, with regards to the whole situation, it's a classic example of why you'd want somebody like... People criticise people like Keir Starmer for being, on the detail.
Sensible and calm or boring. I'm not going to let you off the hook. Why was Boris Johnson so desperate to sign a trade deal in India?
Well, I don't disagree with your analysis. But as a Brexiteer...
Well, then just say the words out loud then, please. And remember, you're not allowed to call yourself a Brexiteer because it makes you sound noble and honourable rather than deluded and foolish. So why was he so desperate to sign a trade deal with India?
He wanted to sign a great-looking trade deal because he's an arse.
Pardon? Crikey. I was criticising you for not... Did he say what I thought he said? Good Lord. OK. Well, you can't have that. Amusing though it is, I need a slightly more substantive reason rather than a personality dismantling. Why was he so desperate to sign a trade deal, Brexiteer, Mike?
Well, I said I'm not going to disagree with your analysis.
No, but I want to hear you say the words out loud.
He wanted something to look pretty, like a nice trade deal.
But why? If Brexit was a good idea, why does he need something pretty from India?
Well, as a Brexiteer, I'm sorry for saying that word again. I don't care whether he had a trade deal with India or not. I didn't give two monkeys.
Because you voted for...
I voted for Leave.
Yes, no, I know, but it wasn't about trade, or so what was it about?
It was just about wanting to be separate from the European Union, because I didn't want to have a closer integration.
Right, yeah, that one. That old chestnut, except we had the least integrated arrangement with the European Union of any member country, but never mind. That ship has sailed. 25 minutes after 10 is the time. So I mean, there you go. Someone describing Boris Johnson in the roundest of terms. Not a word I would employ, I don't think, on the radio, but don't at me if I do occasionally slip into the argot. But I mean, yeah, okay, wasn't expecting that. Complete agreement. That's why it's happened. That's why we've got a 4-week extension on it. Because he needed a trade deal with India in order to, and then you can fill in whatever gaps you prefer. Michael is in Dagenham. Michael, what do you reckon?
Right, well, let's start with the closure of the borders between Pakistan and basically not India. That's all political. We're not doing any favours with them. We don't really negotiate very well with them. They're not interesting to us.
Sorry, who?
They're expendable.
Who?
That's the way the political classes think. Okay?
Hang on, who are you talking about? Which countries do we not...
Ours, our government, our corrupt government, and our corrupt opposition. They're all corrupt. They're all the same thing. Okay? So... No,
I don't want to sound I don't really know what you're telling me.
Okay, so the thing is, it would have made no difference if we closed down the corridors between India and the United Kingdom.
Why not?
Right? Well, this variant's been out for quite a long time already. It's a lot longer than they've been saying.
Oh, I see. Right.
And people are travelling everywhere. You know, and on top of that, if I close down the corridor between India, it doesn't stop an Indian from getting on a flight to another country and then coming to me.
No, but it makes it a lot harder, Michael. So it means that the numbers...
Really.
Well, yes, really. And it means that the numbers coming in would be massively reduced.
Yes, but it only takes one to spread an infection.
Well, but if you've got 10, then it spreads a lot further and faster, Michael.
Well, no, this is the problem.
I know.
This is the problem.
I know.
Because, like...
well, look, here's the bloke... I'll tell you what. Whoa. Here's the bloke from Sage. Here's the bloke from Sage, again, Sir Paul Moss, with an M. Have a listen to this and then tell me what he's got wrong, yeah?
I think we're probably going to see a compromise of the Prime Minister later on. It's quite unfortunate. It's all about this new Delta variant. If we hadn't had that, I'm sure we'd be locking down much more.
Easing off, I think, perhaps you mean, Professor.
Yeah. Easing off much more.
So, go on. Michael?
The first problem, okay?
What?
Right, let's start with the first problem.
No, OK. Well, let's not. Bob's in Leighton Buzzard. Bob, what would you like to say?
I just don't think you should completely rubbish the trade deal with
first exit.
Is it a full moon at the moment?
Eh?
Is it a full moon at the moment?
No.
No? All right, don't miss that first exit. I'm not rubbishing the trade deal with India. I'm explaining that the desperation to sign it... What?
And I started again, but I've stopped again now.
OK, mate. Well, hang on. We'll it's almost like a... I'm waiting for Hampton Deck to come into the room this morning. Seriously.
Rockets everywhere this morning. Well, outdoing his fellow billionaires in the race to space. Amazon boss Jeff Bezos will blast into orbit next month.
Do you know what they call that?
A rocket.
They call it Blue Origin. Does that look a little odd to you? It's just me. Joining us now for more is US correspondent Alison Petrowski-Alley. The Bezos flight will officially kick off the company's space tourism business.
Yeah, that's right, Carl. Good morning to you, Carl. Good morning to you, Ali. Launch of the interesting shaped rocket, thanks for pointing that out, Carl, will happen on July 20 out of remote West Texas next month. Jeff Bezos, the world's second richest man, will be hopping on board, surprising everyone this morning. We knew Blue Origin were planning to send people into space soon. We had no idea it was going to happen next month, guys. We had no idea that Jeff Bezos himself was planning to be on board. He's also making it a family affair, bringing his brother along for the ride. And judging from some of the video quality, I do assume they're probably making a documentary out of this. Let's have a listen to some of Bezos's announcement this morning.
I want to go on this flight because it's a thing I've wanted to do all my life. It's an adventure. It's a big deal for me.
And Ali, how are the other billionaires feeling about it?
Leslie's called from Oxford. Hi, Leslie.
Hello, yeah, I'd like to say, my husband, he was searched just a while ago, sort of legally for other reasons. Consent under duress is not consent. That's the first thing I'd like to say. My second thing, looking at Israel, they included natural immunity. So why can't the government look at natural immunity as well as the vaccine?
What do you mean they included natural immunity? They checked people's levels of natural immunity?
Antibodies as well as, giving them their COVID freedoms, I am led to believe.
But that's fairly easy to do. If you want to avoid the vaccine, it's fairly easy to check your antibodies. I did it a couple of times for Mum during
why can't the government include that? That's what I'm saying.
Why does everything have to be the government? The individual carer can just book one of those tests online for free. I've done it a couple of times.
So why should they have to bring in mandatory vaccines? Why can't they bring both options?
Because these adults behaving like children are not playing ball.
But equally, consent under, as I go back to my point, consent under duress is not.
Well, as
consent.
soon as it's compulsory, it's not consent, is it? That's the thing. Well, when you talk about compulsory vaccination, of course, it's not consent.
So people can be liable. So people can claim for being forced to be pushed down the road to be jabbed.
No, but I don't understand your question. If it's compulsory to be vaccinated in order to be a carer, then the carer has to make a choice between being vaccinated and being a carer.
Yeah, but if people are being pushed it's jab or your job, people are being...
Doctors do it. This is what... So what, Leslie? I mean, it really is driving me nuts. So what? Doctors who train for years and years to be extremely valuable people to us, nurses ditto. So what?
But
they do it.
My other question, why has natural immunity been chopped completely out the window? I've heard reliable medics say that natural immunity lasts.
Well, if a carer is so adamant they're not going to get vaccinated but still wants their job, they should... I cannot believe the baby behaviour of so many people. Grow up, not you, Leslie, grow up, get people... If you don't want the jab, but you still want to be a carer and the compulsory stuff comes in, go and investigate your natural immunity. It won't cost you anything. Just do it. Oh, my God, how do these people get out of bed in the morning?
They didn't keep their distance at the G7, did they? Not at all. The whole thing is bullshit and lies.
Piccadilly line. Exit here for Buckingham Palace. This station has step-free access. This is a Victoria Line train to Brixton.
Hello? Yeah, Boris lied to us, so we're taking...
Today at 6, the Health Secretary apologises after pictures emerge of him kissing and embracing a colleague in breach of COVID guidance. Matt Hancock says he's let people down and is very sorry after the images showed him with Gina Coladangelo. Seen here with the aide, Mr. Hancock still has the support of the Prime Minister, but Labour says he should be sacked.
Unfortunately, this saga does seem yet again to indicate that there's one rule for the Conservatives and another rule for everybody else.
Steve's in Islington. Steve.
Yeah, Tom, I just don't understand what you just said a minute ago. He's put his hands up, mate, and admitted that he's done wrong.
Yes.
I mean, it takes guts to do that, you know what I mean? He's
doesn't
you just
take
said he
that...
didn't do that. He admitted that he's made a mistake.
Yes,
Tom.
he did. No, he did. He's apologised and he's
Why
told the
did
Prime...
you just say he didn't?
No, I did. No, because he didn't do it at the time, Steve. That's the difference.
Oh, at the time. No, at the time. I admit, no, he didn't do it at the time.
So hang on. So he's admitted it. He's admitted it when he's been caught, hasn't he? He's been found out and he's gone, oh, sorry.
It's a big man to do that. You know, a lot of people run away and hide, Tom, you know?
I would say it'd be the opposite. I would say it takes a big man to preempt it and say, do you know what, I've made a mistake. You would never have found out that I'd made a mistake, so I wanted to keep it quiet from you. Well, hang on, can we just accept that first point was a load of bunkum? That was just rubbish.
It was, because I thought you got it wrong, but obviously you've turned it round on me. But the second thing is, you're putting at his door, which is very unfair, the fact that all people couldn't go to hospitals and funerals and all the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't his fault. That's the pandemic's fault, Tom. The guy, you've got to admit, the guy has probably saved thousands of people's lives by advising people not to do that. You know, you've got to be a bit fair about this. You know, he's a human being. He's made a mistake. As you just said yourself, no one's perfect, Tom. We all make mistakes. A load of MPs have made mistakes. You know, that's life. People don't go through life making no mistakes. You know, everybody's sort of twisted the rules to suit themselves.
Well, Steve, listen, I think the difficulty is, you're right, there did have to be rules in place that people followed, and whether it was, from a health point of view, the right thing to say that not a lot of people could gather at certain times in their life that they would like to be there for, be it the births or funerals or what have you. I accept that. But I just think if you're the health secretary and you're telling people what to do and you are found to have breached those restrictions yourself and you've been caught out, not that you've preempted it, you've been caught out doing it, I think you have to concede that your credibility is shot to pieces now.
No, I disagree. I don't think his credibility is... He's done a good... The guy's done a good job, you know, and we should be grateful. He's saved thousands of people's lives.
All right. Steve, thank you.
Yasin Rahim is calling us from Southsea. Hello, Yasin.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, yes, I am absolutely shocked by the spineless nature of these people who are actually calling in to actually do a piñata on this guy. He's not a piñata. I mean, we owe a debt of gratitude.
Oh, OK, hang on a minute. So hang on. So I just said, is anybody going to defend him? And here you are. OK, so tell me why they've got it wrong.
Yes, absolutely. Everyone has got it wrong on this. Number one, he's not piñata. Number two, we're making a mountain out of a molehill. Absolute mountain out of a molehill. And number three, which is the most important one, is who actually can stretch the rules that have been set? The person who has established it.
No, but Yasin, why is it a mountain out of... Yasin, everybody... Yasin, people have called in to say, look, I didn't see my dying partner. My dying wife, I didn't get to see her because I stuck by the rules and he didn't. Others are saying, look, I'm a former civil servant. You can't work like this. How is this a mountain and a molehill?
We have to actually ask ourselves the question. If I have set the rule, then I have the right and the privilege to actually stretch that rule. And that's what he has done. Yes, and fourthly, which is important to remember, I mean, we are actually haranguing him. I mean, we might not know that he might be following the religion that allows him to
what you're saying is those with power can do whatever they like because they're the ones who made the rules.
They can do anything that can stretch the issue. I didn't say that they can do anything in their power of what they like. No, they're stretching, and he has stretched it.
OK. Yasin, thank you very much indeed.
Do we really need another news channel on TV?
Well, as luck would have it, we have two titans of broadcasting here in Alistair and John in his previous career as the presenter of BBC Breakfast, amongst many other things. John Nicholson first on this.
Oh dear, poor old GB News. It's sort of Brexit telly, isn't it? It was noisy and jingoistic. It didn't prepare properly or listen to experts, and it fell flat on its face at its launch.
Hang on. Is that really fair? I mean, come on, it's a new start-up business. It's bound to have some technical bumps and scrapes. It set out in advance what it was going to try and do, and has it not gone about doing that?
Well, you say some technical scrapes as if it was just a little minor hiccup. It's at a presenter walking off air. It's got interviews conducted in the dark, graphics not working, and OBs, outside broadcasts, not working. The problem is that they took this thing about not listening to experts a little bit too seriously at the channel. I loved the comment in the Irish Times, which said, the people at GB News hate elitist experts so much they've apparently chosen not to hire any technicians. I mean, obviously, the channel has got some great folk, experienced folk like Simon McCoy, Alistair Stewart, and Andrew Neil himself. But it's also filled with cranks who are going on long rambles of COVID denial and how we live on an autocratic regime because it wants us to have injections. The very fact Alistair is here, prepared to give comment, says everything about the channel, because Alistair's a journalist. We should not know what Alistair's views are about anything. Can you imagine a BBC presenter or an ITV presenter turning up to opine on current events? It just wouldn't happen, and it says everything about a channel devoted, I'm afraid, to rather grumpy Brexit resentment.
Alistair Stewart next.
Hello.
Do you agree, Alistair?
SNP, don't you love them? It's like a kind of can't remember how Brexit went when we all voted back all those years ago, and we just carry on as if nothing has changed. From an accomplished broadcaster, I've never heard such condescending, ill-informed, prejudged drivel. GB News, in its manifesto, and as agreed in its licence with Ofcom, the national regulator of television in this country, we said from the outset we would be a views channel and not a news channel. If that's beyond you, I'm terribly sorry. Things have moved on since you last worked in proper broadcasting. Secondly, we know perfectly well the difference between public service broadcasting because we employed an ex-senior Ofcom advisor, and he's worked closely with us. And if you think it's just wonky cranks drifting in and drifting out of our studios, just for example, explain that then to Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, to David Davis, to Steve Baker, and I would love to have more Labour MPs on. There is a reluctance, which I regret, but maybe it's because some people have been listening to the tosh that John has just visited upon you. Have a look at it. Have a look at it. Make your own judgment, and I think you'll find it may just add to the variety of choice in this country, and that freedom of choice really matters to us at GB News.
It unnerves me when we're on there because it says live and then it's just us, and I'm like, yeah, but are we? Are we though?
Are we? So, cool. Oh, we are. Hello, hello. Welcome back after the break on GB News. We are talking about, obviously, the reopening, July 19th.
Back to John. Do you get the impression I might have touched a raw nerve?
Like the Irish Times, The Guardian and The Independent, who wrote hundreds of words writing us off and calling us Fox UK before we transmitted a single frame.
We heard. Do you know, I'm beginning to feel a wee bit sorry I was so nice to him. I actually said, didn't I? I said it's got some fine journalists, and I mentioned Alistair's name before he went off on that very long rant. Well, let's see. The proof will be in the pudding. If people want to listen to this stuff, they're going to listen to it. But I've been having a wee look at the advertising, and it seems to be mostly for funeral care provisions. So I suspect your target audience isn't in the first flush of youth.
And I do have an issue with wearing them. It's why I phoned up. And it's not because I'm stupid. It's for various reasons. The job I have, I can't work from home. I work for a private company, but we carry out work for a government organisation, and basically that requires us to go to customer premises and go to sites and speak to various people, and they are quite a serious impediment to communication.
You know that everybody who wears them has to speak to people.
Well, what I've noticed is that.
Just to be clear, we are agreed on that. Every single person who wears.
If I could just say my point, if you wouldn't mind. Basically, what I've noticed is wearing them.
Yes.
Well, I haven't started, if you don't mind. So since I've been wearing one, obviously we've been wearing them for the last 15 months. So I've been going out to work, and I've noticed the extent to which obviously we all rely on lip reading, and I found it's really difficult to hear people. It's really difficult to. My job is all about communication. You know, I interview people. That's basically what I do day in, day out.
Same here.
It's difficult, but of course I need to speak to people face to face, and you don't.
No,
that's the difference.
Well, so I don't want to sound insensitive. Are you suggesting you might have a hearing impediment?
No, not at all. I've spoken to lots of people that have said the same thing, that when they meet people face to face, when they're talking to people, it's really easy to mishear what they say. And in a job where you need to...
But you can't see my lips now.
No, but what I'm trying to explain to you, if you would let me make my point, if that's okay.
Well, you keep saying that, Lisa. Just tell me again. Tell me what your point is.
My point is,
yes.
I have 2 points, if I may make them. One
I wish you would.
I've noticed that it affects my ability to communicate and do my job.
Yes, I heard that. You've made that point.
And my second point
is
that I find wearing face coverings personally really uncomfortable and oppressive.
Everybody does.
I'm menopausal, so I do not want to see
I'm not
them
menopausal.
becoming... No, exactly, you're not.
Yes.
I also have a medical condition which my skin and my face flares up and gets very hot.
Yes.
I find them uncomfortable. So
yes, everybody finds them uncomfortable, and everybody has to talk with them on. I think, do you feel you've made your point yet, or shall I be quiet again?
Well, all I want to say is, you asked somebody to ring up who doesn't want them to become permanent. That's my point. So I've been wearing them where I have to, where we are required to. But I would rather the government said, going forward, you don't have to wear them, but you can wear them on things like public transport, and I would wear them on that. Wear them on that,
but you
wouldn't
wear them at work. You wouldn't wear them at work. Well, you don't wear them all the time, do you? Have you got one on now?
I do. If I'm working on site, I do.
Have you got one on now?
I'm not at a site at the moment.
No, I know. I just said you don't wear them all the time, Lisa. I wish you'd let me make my point.
I wear them when I'm at a customer site.
Yes, but you don't wear it all the time, and everybody who wears it finds it uncomfortable, and everybody who wears them has to speak to other people, Lisa.
Yes.
So
exactly.
what is? Forgive me for using this word, but what do you think is special about you?
Nothing. I'm just saying that that's the reason why I would rather have the choice about when to wear them, and I would rather they were not mandated. That's all the point I want to make.
And I'm very grateful to you for making it. And you are, just to be clear, you have now made your point.
Yes, of course.
Fantastic. Thank you. No, I mean, I would rather not wear it as well. The problem is that people who should wear them won't wear them when the guidance is reduced, as I think perhaps unintentionally you just demonstrated.
Steve has called from High Wycombe on the same topic. Hi, Steve.
Hi, yes. I'm actually, of course, Sadiq Khan is right to do what he's doing. I don't see how it's particularly against what the government is saying. I think the government have made it clear that they want people to make choices for themselves, and as the manager of Transport for London, he's made the right decision for that institution. Just as I think that pubs who choose to have vaccine passports, for example, it's their choice, and I would ask them to do it.
Do you understand what public health is, Steve? That's a little bit like saying, listen, if Thames Water want to poison their water, that's their choice. But if Scottish Water think it's important that the water is safe, good. They've got the choice the government gave them. That's called...
That's very unfair.
It's not unfair, Steve. Public health applies to all the same. Public health applies to all the same. So a mask is either a legitimate protection in the face of a pandemic and for especially for vulnerable people, or it is not. Sadiq Khan has said clearly, politically, it is, and this is what must happen in the areas that I have power. The government has said in the areas it has power, you decide. You decide.
Yes. As a vulnerable person, I will not be going on the public transport, regardless of whether they're wearing masks or not, because I want the virus to spread, just as the government wants the virus to spread. They want everyone to get slowly through this pandemic. And we're not going to do it because people aren't taking up the vaccine.
You want the virus to spread?
I want the vaccine to... I want the virus to burn out. And that will only happen when more people have caught it. So, yes.
And many,
the government,
and many been hurt by it.
Of course. And that's exactly what Chris Whitty had to point out with his shaky voice the other night. It's clear that this is happening anyway, with escalating, but even in the current level of lockdown, we still have more and more cases.
But if this is their plan, and I think you're right that they are accepting. I don't think it's like a great cheerful design for people to get the illness. I think they are accepting that there are limits on what they can do here. But don't we also have to accept that within that we want to protect vulnerable people?
Yes, and I think every single venue for the public, such as the transport systems, pubs, nightclubs, sporting events, and everything of the like, has a responsibility to decide, do they want to warn people this is a place where you might be at risk, or this is a place where...
So what's the government for, Steve? What's the government for?
government for all sorts of things, making
But
legislation,
not for public health.
collecting taxes,
Not for
and
public
spending
health,
it.
but not for
No,
public
the
health.
NHS is for that. The NHS
No,
is
actually,
for that.
you're wrong. It's not just the NHS that is for public health. Absolutely not. Well, I couldn't disagree with you more, Steve. I really couldn't. Steve in High Wycombe.
Graham's in Leeds. Graham, what do you think?
Good morning, James.
Hello.
Couple of points to make. With regard to Monday, I think it's unbelievable that we're actually going to be doing what we're going to be doing. None of it makes any sense whatsoever.
Well, did you hear Alex? Did you hear Alex up in Cumbria? So the idea is, the plan is that everybody who hasn't been vaccinated, or pretty much everybody, gets it, and therefore antibodies build up a resistance, and we achieve herd immunity through a combination of vaccination for half of the population and possibly infection for the other half.
Understood.
Including all our children.
That's correct. That was what leading on to one of the other points regarding the slowing down of the vaccine take-up. I myself am vaccine hesitant. I'm not jabbed at all. I've followed every other rule up until this point.
Right.
But I've decided to wait and see regarding the vaccine.
Will you promise me you'll listen to the podcast? Listen to Full Disclosure.
I do. I mean,
Promise. Listen to the women that invented it and have put it into circulation, because I think it will address some of your concerns.
I promise you.
Thank you.
I mean, just with regard to the vaccine, just yesterday or the day before, the Australian Chief Medical Officer has said that the risks actually outweigh the benefits with the vaccine.
No, they haven't.
Now, I know that's a very controversial point.
They haven't said
but that's not me.
I haven't even checked, but there's no earthly way the Australian Chief Medical Officer has said, as explicitly as you describe it, that the vaccine has a greater risk than the virus. It just hasn't happened.
No, than the benefits to the vaccine.
Yeah.
But
it hasn't happened. I'm not even checking.
All that to one side.
All right.
Jane Lucas is calling us from Bolton. Hi, Jane.
Hello, Anita.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, what did you want to say, Jane?
Yes, I think that the Freedom Day on Monday is long overdue and nothing should stop it.
Okay. Nothing at all?
No, nothing. And I think the way supermarkets are now insisting people wear masks is outrageous.
Right.
And I would like to say that Radio 4 has stoked the fear and panic about COVID-19 from the beginning, with Evan Davis regurgitating the authoritarian control from the government from day one, instead of critiquing it.
Why do you think the government... I'm genuinely interested. I mean, Evan, a fine colleague of mine, and is not here to defend himself, so let's just keep to the subject,
He's an example of Radio 4 stoking the fear and panic.
Okay. Why do you think the government is trying to control you, and why are they trying to control you using masks?
The authoritarian control that has happened for the last 18 months, in my opinion and my family's opinion, is completely over the top.
But why are they trying to control you?
COVID-19 is serious, but it is not exceptional.
Well, I mean, the death rates, Jane, the death rates have been exceptional. The exponential growth of and spread of COVID-19 has been exceptional. Or do you reject all of that? Do you think all of those numbers are made up to trick you?
No, I don't think any of those numbers are made up to trick, but I think the way they are presented, the number of people who are testing positive is actually irrelevant. All that is relevant is the number of people who are dying or are seriously ill from it. And things like the vaccination and all the things we've had to do as a society have kept them we're a lot better at treating. We're a lot better at treating the disease now. Also, we are very upset about the way that the repeated suffering of children and young people, their lives have been destroyed by all the restrictions. They have lost experiences in their youth that they will never get back again.
So can I just ask you this? I mean, you're again. I just want to be clear about this, because you've thrown in some quite big allegations that there's been a a process of attempting to control the public, and that there's been an awful lot of scaremongering. But you don't reject that a lot of people have died. I mean, there's some. I'm just trying to find the latest figures on how many people have died of COVID. But wait. Okay, but you can't. But you can. You're doing the comparison with flu, right? Okay.
No, 50,000 there are 50,000 excess deaths from flu, which is more than a third of COVID deaths in 17-18, and no one batted an eyelid. Didn't their lives matter? Don't the lives of people from all the other illnesses?
So the pandemic so far, if it's hundreds of millions of people have lost their lives from coronavirus.
You're talking about worldwide?
Yeah.
3 million children die from HIV worldwide.
Okay.
Have died from HIV. There's malaria, there's Ebola, there's all sorts of... You know, COVID-19 does not compare with some of the really serious viruses that kill children and people all over the world.
And what about those who say, look, you know what, Jane, I've got vulnerable people in my family, and if we don't take precautions, then that's as good as a death sentence for them?
Well, they can... Vulnerable people who consider themselves vulnerable can take their own precautions and stay at home or wear their own mask or whatever. But to sacrifice the lives of the young for the old and very old is wrong.
Okay. Jane, we've only got only 10 minutes of this programme, but I think we'll get quite a few callers on this. Thank you very much indeed.
Neville Gregory's in Salford. Neville, good afternoon.
Yeah, hello, Julian. How are you?
I'm very well. Vaccine passports, good or bad as far as you're concerned?
Bad for three reasons, I think. One, well, about those who can't be vaccinated. I've heard there could be about 5 to 6 million, so it would be unfair on them.
Where do you get the 5 to 6 million from?
This is what I've heard. It was on Radio 4, actually. Radio 4 today, there was somebody who worked in the medical profession on Radio 4 today.
Okay.
And that's what she said.
Who can't be vaccinated for medical reasons, you're suggesting?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that. We still don't know how long the vaccine is effective for. We've seen people who are double vaccinated get infected. So you could have a passport for a vaccine that loses effectiveness more quickly than what we think, right? And also, I just want to point out the hypocrisy of Jacob Rees-Mogg. He said he don't like papers being, we needed papers, and yet his government have introduced ID for voting, one of the most basic fundamental rights we have.
Yes, you're not the only person to make that point, actually. Have you had the vaccine yourself, just out of interest?
I've been double vaccinated, yes. But I know, I've got friends who have immune deficiency, and they can't be vaccinated. And I'm thinking about those people, because it's unfair for them.
Let me read you a couple of comments on the other side of the argument. Rita writes this: I live in Germany. Vaccine passports are absolutely standard here, and I find them incredibly useful. They're a record of every vaccination that you've had and when, whether it's polio, tetanus, hepatitis, yellow fever for travel abroad, etc. Sorry, come back. Yeah?
No, it's all right, no.
I thought you were about to comment on that.
No, well, I put this to people. I mean, the government want to have an impact on every part of their lives. If we accept this, eventually we will need a passport to go to the toilet. I think it's going way too far. But they've controlled us over about 18 months. Something that had to be done. I don't disagree with it, but enough is enough.
Right, but I mean, the government would say we have lived through extraordinary times, not just in this country but elsewhere, and extraordinary times naturally point towards the kinds of guidance, rules, regulations that you would not normally have in place. And Jacob Rees-Mogg took the view that this would be a temporary measure.
Julian, what about the fact that I mentioned about people have been infected after having them double vaccinated?
Yes, they have. Yes, they have.
We don't know how long real effective protection lasts being double vaccinated. So until we know those, well, personally, I would be against them, period. But I only, if it's proved they are effective for a long time, I might reluctantly change my mind, but personally, I don't see that coming.
Well, we always welcome people who are open-minded on this programme. Neville, very good to have you called. Thank you.
So you don't agree with this suggestion that's long been said that Latin is a dead language and therefore completely pointless to learn in school?
Latin is a dead language, as dead can be. First it killed the Romans and now it's killing me. No, I don't. I think it's an excellent education. My children are beginning to learn Latin now. And as you were saying, it helps broaden their education. It opens up the ancient world from which we draw so much of our current civilization. And some things you do at school need to be difficult. That's what stretches the mind and develops the intellect. But I think your key argument that you put in your introduction is actually the levelling up argument. Do you remember a few weeks ago there was some woke statement about how people shouldn't use Latin quips because it discriminated? Well, that's completely the wrong way around. What you want to do is ensure that people are comfortable with Latin quips because you've given them such a good education. And that's what levelling up is all about. It's not about stopping difficult things. It's making opportunity available to everybody. And so I think this is a really exciting initiative and would strongly encourage it.
All right, in that spirit then, I'd like to just put you to the test if you don't mind.
I thought you'd try this.
Now.
I've just said my Latin's hopeless.
No, I'm sure it's perfectly fine, and we shall find out now. I just want to remind listeners that Jacob did attend Eton, which is one of the most expensive private boarding schools in the country, and then he was privileged enough to study at Trinity College, Oxford. So again, he is really the creme de la creme when it comes to being well educated in this country. He's also perhaps in the privileged few that have learned Latin, which is now being broadened out to everyone else. So let's just see if Jacob can answer these simple questions. Now, do you recognise this Latin? What does this mean? Floreat etona.
That means let Eton flourish, and is the motto of my old school.
OK, well, I started with an easy one because I didn't want to just, make this simple for somebody of your supreme intellect. How about this? And forgive my pronunciation because it has been several decades since I learnt Latin. Igna natura renovator integra.
No, I don't know that one.
Through fire, nature is reborn whole. I'll give you a more simple one. Saper orde.
Orde, something to do with here, and sape, hope.
Sapere orde, dare to know.
Dare to, right. So sapere rather than, I was thinking of spero, yeah.
Well, no, fair enough.
And spero, whilst I breathe, I hope.
Indeed. And if you get this one right, then I think we might need to send you something because this would be very impressive.
I'm not getting any of them right. I mean, as I said to you, I'm level of my Latin is the Dictionary of Quotations.
Well, I know.
Rather than you need to get the Prime Minister on to do a Latin quiz.
Well, we'd love to get the Prime Minister on. Prime Minister, if you're listening, do come on and we'll give you a Latin quiz and then ask you some questions about other things. This is the final one before we do get on very briefly to other things. Now, listen. Non torsi subligarium.
No idea.
Don't get your knickers in a twist, which might be useful the next time you're at the dispatch box.
Louise is in Brighton. Louise, what would you like to say?
Oh, hello, James. Thanks for what you just said just now. That was really important.
I hope
that
so.
Space, what you've just said. So vital that we have that for free speech.
Yes, I think so.
And I feel that our societies are becoming fascist societies. We can't talk anymore, without some kind of penalty if you didn't say something that actually contradicts biology and realities that people have known for centuries, that new ideas have just suddenly popped up. We have to accept as our new reality.
The F word's always tricky, isn't it? But I don't know that these are new ideas that have suddenly popped up. History is...
The gender...
Yes.
Gender identity. This wasn't... in the beginning
I think it was. I think there are lots of examples from the past of people who... But I think its prominence has become... is a modern phenomenon, but not its existence.
It has a source. In the 1950s, we exchanged the word gender for sex because people were uncomfortable with the word sex because it alluded to sex. Okay?
Right.
So it was changed for the word gender.
But the word gender's been around for millennia.
Since the 19th... No, it was...
Has it not?
Used, it was used in this context. It wasn't used in this context prior to that. It just means kind or type. You know, that's what it means. So it didn't mean actually a sex, like reproductive organs or anything like this. It just meant a type. So it's basically saying it's this type of person, of human being, and a person that type. You see what I mean?
Oh, okay. So I mean, again, you've probably done more research than I have. But
yeah, I've done a lot.
No, fine.
It's documented on, you can find it. So in the 1950s, gender was used to replace the word sex, just out of politeness, for our sensitive societies. And then very recently, gender identity, see, this is something different. Before it just represented male and female, and now it's become an identity that was never spoken about before.
Can I possibly unfairly, can I just nudge you towards why you don't think, and I'm presuming you don't think, that Laurel Hubbard should be allowed to compete in this discipline at the Olympics?
I think nature is what matters. You are either male or female. You go through a male or female puberty, and nature doesn't care about your feelings or anything like that. That is how your body is. The reason we have... Is that a slightly fascistic approach to nature?
How? I don't know. It's not a word I like, but I know you like it. But you're laying down the law in a way that brooks no debate or discussion.
It's something I was born, and I
but there are lots of people who disagree with you, and you're excluding them completely from the conversation.
But they're not. But it's nature I am aware of.
Many people will find you telling them they don't exist to be fascistic.
What do you mean exist? Of course they exist.
Yes, but they think that they are women.
But they can think whatever they want. I don't mind. Whatever they want to think is up to them.
That's okay then.
If they're going to impose what they think on something that's been provided for me as a woman, because of my physiology, not because of what's in my head, but because of my body, that's what I need, that provision. If you're going to sort of
we're going to hit the news, so I don't want to sort of squeeze you, but give me the most powerful example of that imposition, if you could.
Okay.
It will have to be briefly. No, you personally. I don't know if that's an unfair question.
What do you mean? So I don't understand what you mean.
Well, you said it becomes a problem when somebody imposes it on you, and I wonder what that looks like.
To train in sports, and then suddenly a male who went through male puberty came into my sport.
Yes.
I would be bitterly upset, as I expect many women are, and we've had no choice.
And what about the women who aren't bitterly upset?
Well, they don't speak for everybody.
No, so what should we do? Take a vote, do you think?
No, because
why not?
Because it's either same sex, so it's single sex.
So we don't take a vote on it. We just do what you want.
Well, no, let's change the word then to gender sports instead of.
No, let's not. Let's just say if you feel it's an imposition, then we ask everybody else who's competing how they feel about it, and then go with the majority view. Otherwise, otherwise it's pure fascism.
Are you talking about gender or sex? Are you talking about gender?
I'm talking about you. I'm talking about the imposition put upon you in the sport that you don't currently compete in, but we're imagining that you did. And I'm just saying, what happens if everybody else competing felt differently from you? Whose opinion should prevail, Louise? That's all I'm asking.
It's not about what they think. It's about what their body is. So
yes.
Are you either going to go?
This is your opinion, isn't it?
No, because gender is man-made.
No. But your opinion about what should prevail here.
Is sex real or not? Did a mother give birth to you or not, James?
You see, you're doing that thing that always confuses me, because we're asking quite straightforward questions about.
Give birth to you?
Well, obviously,
that's a woman. Okay, we've got different pelvises. We walk differently. We swing.
I know all of this, but that's why I'm asking you simply about this Olympic category. It's why we've been very careful to keep the conversation very specific. And your point is that even if every other woman, and you don't even compete, so if every woman in the weightlifting was comfortable with Laurel Hubbard competing, you still don't think she should be allowed to. That's not. I don't know why you'd be embarrassed by that position or avoid it. It seems perfectly reasonable to me, but it is quite fascistic.
It's about sex. And
I know all of this, but can we just acknowledge that if every other woman competing was okay with Laurel...
Who cares what they think?
Yes, who cares what they think, exactly. No, that's fine. I just wanted to get there. I hear you, Louise, I just wanted to get there. Who cares what they think? they are the competitors in the category. And you may well be right. Who does care what they think? But it's certainly not a defence of the anti-fascist position that you began the conversation with.
Last week, 1 in 5 cases recorded in the US were in Florida, reaching more than 21,000 a day, higher than last year's peak. Vaccine hesitancy and misinformation are fueling the numbers, as Florida's Republican governor, Ron DeSantis, continues to oppose strict restrictions like mask wearing and vaccine mandates.
Of the 238 COVID inpatients in this hospital system, more than 90% are unvaccinated. The number of people in Florida getting vaccinated last week increased by 40% from the first week of July. But there are still many Floridians who will not take the vaccine. One of the strongest opponents is a local politician.
There's nothing standing in the way of the government to control each and every aspect of your life if you give in on stupid non-pharmaceutical interventions like masks and vaccine mandates. In Europe and places where there is no freedom, no liberty, no freedom of thought, I think that's a little bit more popular. But here we resist it a little bit more because we believe in individual freedom.
Many scientists and medical professionals are saying that wearing a mask does work to curb the virus.
So that's not an argument. What you're actually relying upon is an ideology of our times that says if somebody is a credentialed person, if they go to a college or university, that what they say has an automatic merit that cannot be questioned by the reasoned public.
So I just spent the morning with some of those people that went to college and got these certificates to say that they are qualified as nurses and doctors, and they all told me that they wanted people to wear masks, they wanted people to get a vaccine.
They have no understanding of the science whatsoever. They have no understanding.
Have you had the vaccine?
No.
And why is that?
Because I'm 32 years old, I'm in great shape, and I don't need it.
We need to take this a little bit more serious than we have.
As a healthy 35-year-old, Junie Oscar didn't think she'd need it either. Now she's on the COVID ward.
People are on ventilators, people are like literally bodies about to drop.
But she's still not ready to get vaccinated.
I mean, I'm definitely going to look into it to understand it a little bit more.
As Florida grapples with vaccine hesitancy, it's also contending with the wholesale rejection of science.
I think about
Iris Acosta-Zobel pulled her 7-year-old daughter out of her private school in May after the co-founder sent an email advising teachers and parents not to get vaccinated. And students were warned to stay away from loved ones who had been.
I have emails of communications from kids in the classroom texting their parents. The teachers were telling them not to hug their parents if they were vaccinated, because vaccines were something that transmit from your body to their bodies, and it was not good for the kids. At the point in time, the misinformation was so much inside the building that we couldn't keep our child in there. It becomes not safe psychologically, right?
When we asked for comment, the school's co-founder declined to speak to us.
And thinking of the people who are struggling to get by on minimum wage, do you know how many people on minimum wage also have to claim universal credit?
I don't have that figure with me at the moment, Eddie, but clearly a number of those will be on in-work benefit, so we'll be working on universal credit, because that's why the flexibility of universal credit was introduced in the first place, to make sure that they can increase the support that they get for a full week's work, if you like.
And do you think, thinking of the people who are struggling to get by on minimum wage, that the government should be named and shamed or called out for abolishing the £20 a week increase in universal credit?
Well, I think first of all, don't forget. I'm glad you at least phrased it in a way that it's abolishing an uplift, because it is an increase. It's not. It was something there that recognising the difficulty that was there before.
And the difficulty hasn't gone away. I'm asking you whether you think the government needs to be called out for abolishing it.
But nonetheless, we have to look at the public finance. We have to look at the universal credit in a holistic way. So we put emergency measures in. We put emergency measures in place.
£100 billion on HS2.
Well, that's you're talking. There are plenty of examples that you can put alongside each other.
£250 million on the national yacht.
HS2 is there to connect people. It's about capacity. It's about making sure that we can, we always talk about levelling up. What does levelling up mean? It means that potential.
Well, couldn't we start by levelling up for the people who've got least money?
Well, what it means is that we can actually widen our economic base to increase the opportunity for employment, for better employment for those people outside London and the South East, which is so much of our time.
If you're on minimum wage and you're losing this increase in universal credit, you're not going to be able to afford a train ticket.
What we're looking at, though, Eddie, that's what I mean about holistic, because clearly we want to make sure that we're building back fairer, to make sure that we're looking after the people that are lowest paid in society.
Building back fairer, looking after the poorest people by cutting universal credit. Are you listening to yourself?
Check out his podcast, What the Hell is Going On with Critical Race Theory. It was very good, very informative. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. On the Princeton point here, you and I have discussed it. At the college level, this is fair game. Go ahead and do it, right? I mean, I remember 20 years old going to Trier, Germany, and trying to find the home of Karl Marx because, 1848, he wrote Mein Kampf. I want to know what it was all about. And trying to find the home of Karl Marx because, 1848, he wrote Mein Kampf. I want to know what it was all about. So that's part of the education in America if you so choose. So.